What's up, friends? Mike here, and once again, I am joined by One Bad Motha. How you doing, man?
I am good. Thanks for having me again, Mike.
Hey. Glad to have you here again. And our special guest this time is Daniel, aka Knottian. How you doing, man?
I'm doing good. Feeling a little bit of deja vu,
Uh, you know,
but
I, I
good
was
to
gonna
be
make the same
good to
joke.
be here.
Glad you're here, definitely. So we are at the end of our road to E3. This time we're watching E3 2018, the Xbox press conference. And this was, once again, a pivotal year for Microsoft. It was the start, pretty much, of the Xbox that we know and love today after Phil Spencer got promoted in September of 2017. And, it's going to be interesting to see how this was how the culmination of these moves that we see in this press conference, we've been seeing the fruits of that the last couple of years. So, you guys have any opening thoughts before?
I think you already took all my thoughts this time, Mike.
Yeah, you reminded me because I meant to talk about it last time. I'm like, oh yeah, that's a good point. I meant to cover that.
No, I think that we'll have to mention to our audience that the nice thing about having a more recent E3 is that we won't have to watch this one in 360p, but we will have to deal with some artifacting. So we'll just give them a little heads up on that. But yeah, I'm pretty interested in seeing this. I think initially coming in, I wasn't going to be as excited about it just because it was, there wasn't the nostalgia you have with some of the other ones. Not that 2013 was necessarily a nostalgic moment, but it was an interesting moment, right? Mm-hmm. Looking back at that, I think this one is a lot fresher in our minds. It does, a lot of these games are still not even released. But it is interesting. It's going to be interesting because I think this is going to be a good lead into this year's E3 in a couple days. So I'm excited to kind of see how those dots connect.
Yep. Yeah, and I think, with the news that came out today, it's pretty timely, both in their acquisition and, this E3, you kind of see the first, groundwork laid for both acquisitions as well as some of the things like Game Pass, streaming, and all that kind of stuff. So it's going to be a good time.
Oh, they did mention about them still. They mentioned it in a couple things, didn't they? Both of their blog posts, I think they mentioned about expanding and still on the hunt.
Yeah, so, we actually just put out an article about that. It's a really good one. You should give it a read.
Yeah. you guys should. I'm talking to you viewers. Okay, so are you guys ready? Get the show on the road?
I believe
once more?
I am. Let's try this again.
All right, here we go.
It's always insane how loud that intro is.
Yeah,
Ooh.
I had a brief stutter there. Hopefully, but yeah.
I think they did a really good job with the presentation this year. That's one of the things that I do remember the most. Besides obviously some of the big.
I remember all these monitors, and I'm like, what are they going to be playing?
Yeah.
With 100
just having
people
all
on the screen.
Having all the fans out on the ground and press and whatnot was really cool too.
Yeah. Oh man. Now the first kind of, I guess, red flag for me here was game engine presentation.
Yeah.
I don't want to say red flag because that's bad, but.
Well, it just comes with the understanding that this isn't what you're going to see when you play the game, but it's just like the UE5 demo. It's like any tech demo. It's the best case scenario if all these features come to fruition on real world hardware, right? And so.
Unfortunately.
Well, sometimes things do change. I have a buddy who does, who's in AAA development, and he mentioned this was the target, but sometimes they tweak things based off of, priorities, right? So,
yep.
Or additional pieces of hardware that you have to support too.
Yeah.
Yep.
And because Unreal Engine 4, at the tail end, that looked better than anything in the beginning, but
right. But also remember that UE4 promised Svogi ray tracing.
Yeah.
And that never happened. So that's why I always tell people just keep your enjoy what you see, hope that it will get really close to that, but remember that it's essentially, a tech demo. So
Yeah, and it's interesting because there's the Warthog and the visor. I wonder if we're actually going to get a reflective visor in Infinite. I mean, they are going to have ray tracing, but we don't know what kind of ray tracing.
Right.
So this was our first introduction to Halo, and I think that's the thing to remember about the Halo Infinite. That hopefully this year will be the final stretch,
right,
and before we actually get to play it.
And honestly, go ahead.
Go ahead, Mike.
That Warthog scene at the end, I can see the game getting close to that.
I remember seeing that pylon firing up. That was, I don't know. It was like a dream come true to me, right? Because it was such a departure from what we saw with Halo 5. And
Yep. And it's because of all these monitors, and it's because of the rumors surrounding Halo Infinity being a battle royale game that I thought it was a battle. So my response was so muted. I was like, oh, like I was expecting like a Halo 6, and when they said Halo Infinite, I thought it was this battle royale spinoff. And
I think they said, I think Bonnie Ross had an interview either before or right after this, but she was like, yeah, we're not doing a battle royale, and that was why I was okay with it.
Yeah, no, it was just in the moment. Like, I feel like I was robbed of the excitement in that moment. After everything after that sounded really good.
Across time zones and languages, to every single person watching us on TV and on Mixer, and to our largest ever live
Mixer.
Yeah,
there's some nostalgia. We didn't think we were going to get a nostalgia today.
Welcome to E3.
Yep.
Poor Mixer.
It's kind of sad looking at.
What now?
It's kind of crazy seeing how much Phil has aged in like
2013
now.
He looks so young in the 2013 I'm like, oh my god, like he looks like a little boy.
I feel that. I was like, oh man, the last year alone.
Yeah.
Are going to Gamers Outreach.
See, I thought that was awesome. Like, kind of, I don't know. Yeah. I hate to be cynical at all, really, but like when it comes to things like filling your crowd with fans and stuff like that, I don't know. That usually would make me question it. But the fact that they're using that money for fundraising 100%, yeah. I was like, okay, you know what? Then you just won me over with this move.
Yeah, I'm a bit biased because of how much philanthropy Xbox is involved with. I mean, it's definitely one of the things that's really important to me, at least.
And even though we're talking over it, this is a good speech. I remember even back then, I was like, this is a really
Bill is a great public speaker.
Yeah,
he is actually. So I pay attention to it because obviously at work, you're required to do some of those. I'm like, pay attention to some of the ways that
his hand motion.
I know it's not what we're here watching, but I'm like, it is interesting how much better he is at communicating to a lot of people that are in these positions.
Yeah,
that matters.
And it also, he started out as a developer too, so he isn't just another suit. He's somebody who's worked his way up and still has that ability to communicate.
Which is
not to fanboy, but.
No, yeah, I completely agree, but that's what makes Matrix so puzzling, because he used to be a developer too. He worked on the original Need for Speed at EA. Yeah. Like, he worked in the trenches too, and yet...
He was the guy that was deleting Rebos, though, probably.
To express their most daring vision for games. Today, we've curated a bold showcase of their best work, and ours.
Oh, I remember this now.
50 games.
Yeah. Just like a buffet of...
Yeah, and I remember, too, some of the feedback afterwards. It's funny seeing this and then seeing the response to last year, because obviously COVID impacted everything greatly, but I still remember people complaining that there was too many games during the C3.
I mean, I saw complaints or maybe jabs about how most of them were multi-platform.
Yeah, they were. I think that was other than Halo Gears Forza, they were multi-platform.
I don't...
Exclusive.
Well, I think this one had a bunch of exclusives actually.
It had
Independence,
four or five,
Yeah.
five
Yeah.
exclusives or something. Like it had, like, don't get me wrong, especially for an Xbox conference
I
back
forgot
then.
Rory was here. Yeah,
Yeah,
Um,
this is where.
that is a big one.
Oh, I
Yeah,
already
and
got, I
that's
already
the
got
thing,
goosebumps.
Yeah.
I love this music. No, for an Xbox press conference, this had a decent number of exclusives. I don't understand the complaint about featuring multi-platform games, because what you're doing is you're building that
Everybody does.
association,
Right.
and you're basically projecting that, look, you can play all these games on our platform.
Yeah,
Like, it still serves a purpose.
Yeah, and everybody does. So that's kind of one of those like completely obvious, complaints that I don't know.
Yeah.
But and this is the only E3 in a very long time where all three Gears, Forza, and Halo were present. That's one of those memes that
Oh wow, yeah. I didn't even think of
it's
that.
it's so rare for that to actually happen, because they have such a, especially last gen, they didn't really have. I mean, they had one Halo, so one new Halo anyway.
this is making me want to go back and play it again.
I haven't beaten it
Beat
yet.
it.
I still need to beat it.
I still
You
need to
haven't
beat
beat
it
it?
too.
Oh wow!
And the crazy thing is, like, I'll turn it on and I'll sit down and get lost for hours and absolutely love every
Yeah.
moment I play. But for whatever reason, I can't, like, dedicate. Well, it has nothing to do with this either. I can't dedicate myself
Enough
to
time.
any game anymore.
Yep.
And I kind of feel bad that I'm not, like, I don't know, doing something productive anymore. Like,
This game, I mean, I still
Oh,
think it
man.
should have won Game of the Year last year, because it was such a marked like the first game was fantastic, but this was such a marked improvement. The soundtrack was better. It was a larger world with side stories, but it wasn't an Ubisoft game where it was just all too much
Yeah.
content.
like
it
a
was,
sea
it was
of
perfect.
icons. Yeah.
Yeah, it was perfect.
It did win XboxEra's Game of the Generation, by the way.
That's right.
yeah,
it did. I
rightfully
wrote
so.
that.
I mean, I got far
That was my
enough to
hazing
know.
ritual.
Oh, I forgot. Did they have? Is this? Yeah. This
Sekiro.
is,
Yeah,
Sekiro.
Sekiro.
Oh, I always call it Sekiro. I'm saying it wrong.
Yeah. So,
Yeah.
I speak Japanese.
I haven't spent any time in Japan, but
I forgot that they revealed it here.
yeah,
Yeah, I mean,
This was another awesome game. God, I
haven't beaten
really
this
did
either.
forget they had some really
They
good
hit some
games
bangers
to
here.
open up. Yeah.
Oh, there's so many good. It's
This
weird.
is my
Like,
game of 2019.
if I could freaking beat it, it probably would be.
this came out in 2019.
Yeah.
Yeah. COVID screwed up the time continuum.
Yeah, because it feels like this came out last year.
No.
I own it on the PC and Xbox, and I started playing on the Xbox, and I restarted on the PC.
If you play it in 60 frames, it's a lot easier.
Yeah,
yeah.
yeah, and
Not
that's
a lot,
that's
but it's easier.
that's
it
why I
makes a
switched
huge
over to the
difference.
PC, because it was like that mid 40s on Xbox that just bothered me.
Watching this makes you want to go play this one again.
Yeah.
Like,
I was
these are
like,
games
man,
that
I really
beat,
need to.
Yeah, it's like I'm gonna re-download this one and play it in 60 frames now.
Maybe I'll try to catch up on my backlog in my vacation.
You
At
should.
least beat
This
one game.
one's- Yeah. That's what I try to do every vacation. Focus on one game that I've been trying to beat.
Knowing my dumbass, I'll play the Mass Effect trilogy. Even though I know I already beat all three of them.
Hey, it still counts. God, so good.
Yeah.
The game's
I-
awesome.
I think honestly, this was my favorite from and like I told you, Dave, I put 190 plus hours in Dark Souls 1, but I just love it's the Edo period lore. It seems like it is a little bit of simplification. Obviously, there's no gear anymore, but it was such a fine-tuned experience.
It's so unique too. There's nothing else in the market. There's not any at least with Souls you have that series, right?
Right.
I guess Bloodborne's, but Bloodborne feels a little bit like Souls.
Yep.
Oh yeah.
That one definitely has a unique feel, but
Like,
wow.
And I love how
Like,
that. The
this
art
is
of that.
this is Todd Howard's worst moment. I forgot about this.
This is his what?
Isn't
This
this
is 76.
76?
Yeah.
Oh, I
Yeah.
forgot.
76.
Yeah.
Man, how many like things are like mirroring this year's this year in general?
What's crazy though is
Another
now
From
it's,
Software games coming out early next year.
yeah. What's crazy is this game is fantastic now. I mean,
Yeah, it's pretty solid. I played it with the FPS boost.
yeah. I was pretty close to being done with my article, and then Catherine, my wife, wanted to start playing too, and she can't put it down now. And she has never liked a Fallout game, but because it's also got the settlement building, she's got the Animal Crossing hook on it. So
with Xbox going all the way back to the original with Morrowind.
This is interesting.
Yeah.
yeah,
like
because this
the
is
shout out.
from some of the people at Xbox. They pointed back to this E3 as the start of the conversation for the acquisition.
That's when the rumors started heating up right after the show.
Yeah.
There were some rumors of
with Fallout
Oh, be
4
quiet.
launching today.
Oh, okay. Yeah, I mean there was like rumors coming right after this about those talks, and some people dropped that, and then it just disappeared until.
And then everybody said Sony was buying them for a year.
Yeah, I saw it was like 2019. There was the rumors that Sony was buying them.
Yeah. It's funny
I've
times.
never played Fallout 76 though. I mean, after the reception and everything, I just never gave it a shot.
It's not bad. Like I don't know. I'm not the biggest Fallout fan.
It is 4 times the size.
But it's got a lot of color. That's one thing. Like this, 4 grabbed me more than the other ones, and then this grabbed me a little bit more.
Oh yeah, this game is a beautiful like showpiece. I mean, so I'll sell it really quick. So I was the guy who bought the white 1X that came with it for free, and then my wife and I put in like 5 hours, and then I didn't touch it for a year and a half. And then they put out the Wastelanders DLC during quarantine last year, and it was a wholly new experience. It was like a traditional, like I played 190 hours by myself without a single soul, experiencing any interaction with me at all, because it was so close to an original experience. But you can see between Fallout 4 and what Starfield will be, you can see all of the start of their new tools and how they're using physically based rendering and all that kind of stuff in 76. It's a fantastic game now.
Is that the update that they added NPCs?
Yep.
And that,
It's so interesting because you look at it, if you go to Metacritic, it still shows like it's a 49 or something crazy.
It's because nobody re-reviews stuff. That's part of the problem with the Sea of Thieves still sits at a 60 something or whatever it is, and that's arguably one of the best games of the generation.
Yeah, I don't remember it looking this pretty even back then. So I guess I just
it had some performance issues big time.
It had texture issues, performance issues, but I mean, even because it drops down to 1080p when you enable FPS boost, even at 1080p, it's soft or fuzzy looking, but it looks.
With the lighting, it doesn't really make that big of an impact as you would think it would.
Yeah, no, it still looks good.
Yeah. But it's also like it's the most varied map of any Fallout that I've ever played, and it's insane how they were able to do what they've been able to do on a map that's much larger than Fallout 4. It's a definitely an impressive game now. Like if you're not a fan of Fallout games, this will not be the game to convince you otherwise. But if you are a fan of Bethesda games and Fallout especially, I think it's a good jump in.
All right, well, you guys, what? We're gonna do a group night.
I'm down. I'm definitely down.
Stay up till 4 again.
Especially to wind up for Starfield, right?
Mm-hmm.
All right, we'll give it a shot.
That's right.
And that, you know what? That was a good trailer too. Even
that,
it was.
You would never think this was gonna release as a 49.
Yeah, exactly. And that's the thing, like,
especially if you watch the no clip.
Man,
do you remember that?
The what?
The no clip presentation on 76.
Oh, I haven't watched that one yet. I have to catch up on their stuff.
Go back and watch it. It's. I don't know. We'll talk about it later. Now that we're on a new game.
It's just me.
I never tried this. I forgot this.
I
struggle with these type of games.
I started playing through it.
My attention span isn't very good for just point and click anymore.
Yeah. You should try telling me why.
I need to blow something's head off.
You're drinking beer? I don't need a lecture from my son.
I'm normally kind of with you, Abe. Like, it's weird. I used to play all the old Double Fine games and LucasArts games.
I did,
but,
yes.
But now it's like, it's hard to jump back in. But Tell Me Why is a fantastic one. But I never played this. I forgot this was like wasn't it a DLC or something before Life is Strange 2 came out?
Yeah, it was a free, just single game. Like, people thought it was going to be the start of a new series, but
That's right.
it was kind of just like a teaser or something. It's within the universe.
It's a standalone within the universe.
Yeah,
that was
yeah.
Or free.
It's weird because I played all like the Telltale what do you call Walking Dead games, and I love those.
Yeah.
And I really enjoyed Tell Me Why. I really enjoyed this. I really enjoyed
I hope so.
Life is Strange, but I haven't been able to finish any of them. Like, I don't know what it is.
For me, a lot of the times it's because they release sequentially in episodes, and so you start getting into a game, and then you have to wait another week for the next sequence, and that's kind of annoying. But
I typically wait until they're all out before I get into it or even try. Where's this one now?
I don't care.
Man, Crackdown 3.
Where's Nick? We should have had Nick on.
You know what?
I'm wrong.
Does he not like this? Does he not like?
You know what? We had hope for it. We had hope for it with this trailer.
I like this one. You know what? I like Crackdown 3. It was exactly what I wanted as a Crackdown fan.
Thank you. Like, I wasn't expecting some Rockstars-ian, open world. I wasn't expecting, and it wasn't an Ubisoft collectathon.
You know what the issue with this game was? Is it was built up for like 3 or 4 years. They had the destructible cities. They were hyping it up to be like a tentpole, and I think whenever you do that, like it's like putting a role player in a sports team in a superstar role. You're setting him up to fail, right? And had this just came out as a game, and I think it would have been received a lot better.
Yeah, I think it suffered a lot because of the complete reversal of the always online. Because had that been, everything that they're talking about now with the cloud and cloud compute and asynchronous computation, that's what this game was supposed to be the start of. But people back in 2013 couldn't see the forest through the trees, and
I don't think they got it working. I don't think they got it working right, because if you play the multiplayer,
the single player was never supposed to have the destruction. That was always supposed to be the multiplayer.
And the multiplayer just never really.
No, and honestly, if they would have made the multiplayer free to play, because they're separate SKUs anyways.
Yeah.
If they would have made that free to play
launchers.
and released this as a standalone game for $40, I think it would have reviewed and been received a lot better.
Yeah.
Now this is relevant because I think up until this point, Microsoft or Xbox had almost no connection with Japan this generation, right? Like this was kind of the start of trying to replace them.
Kind of, yeah. I mean, they
they have it to begin with.
They were missing out on.
They were missing out on some key titles, and this is one of them.
Yeah.
That was the thing.
Yeah, and like this would come, and then Persona, or not Persona, but Yakuza would come.
Yeah.
Maybe Persona's next. We'll see.
Yakuza.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Oh my god. Okay, this trailer.
This is a great trailer.
Game. I beat this one. This is a good look.
I need to beat it. I'm waiting for the Series X update.
Yeah, same here.
But this trailer was, Angel from Massive Attack, Mezzanine, one of the best albums of 1990s. Harmonica, shout out. This was awesome.
This is an inconsistent game, but there's parts.
Yeah.
There's parts that really stand out as like, hey, that was a lot of fun and that looked amazing. And then there's other parts. It's like, what were you guys like? It felt unfinished.
The side stuff, it lacks the quality of the main campaign.
This was 4A's first foray into semi-open world, wasn't it?
Yeah. The other ones were.
Pun intended.
Yeah, the other ones were very much like structured, linear.
Yeah.
The open world stuff doesn't really hit in it. It's at its best when it's the most linear.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Which is a lesson for a lot of developers. It's like sometimes, you know what? It's okay to be just linear and fun.
Yeah. Yep. And
Not
sometimes
everything needs to be open world.
smaller hubs aren't like you don't need a massive open world. Just
Yeah.
smaller focused hubs.
I mean, I think currently I'm trying to get a teddy bear or something for a little girl I rescued,
Yeah.
and that's where like I kind of stopped because there's a bunch of zombies and it was just very thrown together so far. And
Yeah, the open world gets very unfocused, or the semi-open world, or whatever it is.
I will say though, this is one of those developers that I was really sad that Xbox did not pick up when they were still in the market, because they have a knack for pumping out the most that they can out of any hardware.
Yeah, absolutely.
Are they not independent anymore?
They are not.
No, they're kind of like the new
think
Crytek.
Was it
you know?
Koch Media?
Yeah. No, I think Embracer. Well, I think Embracer bought them. It's hard to remember off the top of my head.
Is it
feel-
Embracer?
It may have been Deep Silver. I don't know. Let me see.
Whoever published this game bought them, I think.
Yeah.
Oh, this is yeah.
Metro had me at its gritty visual.
Oh, that's right. I forgot these guys are just recording them.
mystery of the ruins.
That'd be so awkward. I would.
And he's doing the peace sign. Come on. I mean, it's weird. Like, I'd take a screenshot. Like, I'd take a picture.
Yeah.
But
you gotta live in the moment.
Yeah. Yeah.
Whatever world these creators
Oh, I
build,
know what this is.
whatever story they tell, whatever sound effects they use,
I think.
we will work with creators to guarantee that their games look and play best on Xbox One. Like
You know,
the next
it's.
Saber bottom.
game,
Yeah, Embracer.
generations have loved role-playing
Okay.
games from invented studios in Japan. Our
See,
next
this was really
game
cool because
is
this
the
was when
latest in a legendary
you can
series.
tell the Xbox team had started sending out their dev teams to
on
really
Kingdom Hearts.
their support team to really start working with additional developers, because that's when you really start seeing things kind of turn around. And obviously enhancing on One X. Look against
This is the
like
first
RDR2.
time this franchise hit the console too, right? Not that I ever
Yeah.
played it.
It's weird because it was announced in 2013, I think, this was coming to the Xbox. And
Right,
because this
well,
was. I mean, this was
yes,
originally announced in 2013 at a Sony press conference, but
Right.
the press release did say it was multi-platform.
Right.
And
Yeah,
5 years later, we're still seeing a trailer.
Yeah. Yeah. They Sony made it. They tried their best to make it seem like it wasn't coming to anything else. But
Oh, well,
this
I
game
mean-
had such a troubled development because they switched engines like twice.
Yeah, it was supposed to be the Crystal tools
Luminous.
or whatever, Luminous. And then they switched over to Unreal.
Yeah.
But yeah, it going back to what you touched on earlier, Daniel, it's kind of interesting how this generation played out, because in the beginning of this generation they had I'd say unoptimized or lesser optimized tools because they were DX11 based, and then once they released the DX12 tools, they really, and then they did other things like removing the oh, that's right, the sound effects are missing. But they removed the mandate for the Kinect, which gave some performance back and stuff.
No, all I ever do.
But it's weird because
This is my home now.
when the One X was first announced, and they kept on banging their chest about it being a true 4K console. I was like, okay, yeah, we're gonna get games like Ori in 4K, but no way are we gonna get something like Grand Theft Auto. And then go figure, Red Dead Redemption 2 native 4K looks absolutely amazing.
Yeah.
Metro Exodus, another graphically impressive and amazing game, that was 4K native.
Really quick, I have to say, Kingdom Hearts is kind of one of my guilty pleasures. I need to beat this.
I've never played one in my life.
part of like, you know, one of the first things that got me into speaking Japanese was like they always told you watch a lot of anime, play a lot of like games in Japanese, and so yeah.
I love this series. I haven't beaten a single one, of course. I mean, that seems to be just me. But like, no, I actually got to the end of the first game on the PS2, but I wasn't leveled up enough because
yeah, it was super gated. Like you really needed to grind.
Yeah, who was the is it Snow White? Who's the one that turned into a dragon? The Snow
Sleeping Beauty.
Was that Sleeping Beauty? The witch.
Freaking. When did that come out? 15, 16 years ago?
Yeah, I know. But it was one of the bosses. It was like the second last boss that turned into a dragon.
Yeah.
And I just could not, for the life of me, beat it.
It's only 4 million back then.
Yeah, I know. I was just about to say that. Like, you think about, what is it, 20-something million now? 22?
You think about how many they added.
Yeah.
Because it had been out, how long at this point? Like, it had been out...
a year or two? I think a year.
No, this came out in 2018.
No, it just came out. I think it just came out.
Yeah, it just came out a
Was
couple
it?
months, yeah.
Man.
Okay.
Because this and State of Decay were early
you're right.
2018 titles. State of
That's
Decay
right,
just
that's
came out
right.
like 2 weeks before this.
The State of Decay came out in May. Yeah.
That's
So it
right.
came
And then
out
Crackdown
right
comes
after.
out right after this.
Yeah,
No, Crackdown comes out in 2019. Actually.
February, I think.
Yeah.
In this game, this is another one of those games that I've probably put 600-700 hours into.
You know, I played in
I've
the
got a
beginning.
few
I played this with friends, but we all dropped it because it just, you know,
Yeah. When it came out, it just wasn't. There wasn't enough content.
no.
But this game, I feel like this was longer because this is the Devil's Reach, where they're talking about, and that came out a lot later than.
I think now that I think about the timeline, because this was I think the first party game to
March
go day
20th,
one on Game
2018.
Pass. Yeah, and it wasn't until
Yeah.
the beginning of that year that I think they announced it right before this game comes out.
March, man, yeah. Yeah, so I don't think that's right. So it came out in September. I was like, it didn't come out in just a couple months after.
I wonder
that
what
was,
numbers that gets up to eventually. It keeps building.
Yeah, it's very similar to Game Pass trajectory.
Yeah.
Every Game Pass sub is a Sea of Thieves player.
Actually,
You know what?
there's a pretty high correlation between those two.
No, yeah.
Yeah.
Even
Yeah.
my PlayStation loving friends. And if you're watching this, you know who you are. He
Another Battlefield.
Sea of Thieves
Yeah,
is one of the
it's
games
all
he
full circle.
constantly references.
It's
Oh, I
so
remember
good. I
this.
mean, it took a year for my wife, just like Fallout 76 took a year for my wife to start playing it, but now it's one of those games that we play, pretty religiously.
Oh, it's great now. Like it's there's so much stuff to do. Was it last night? Played a little bit of it. We were doing the Tall Tales. We did the last Tall Tales.
Nice.
Well,
Did you guys like Battlefield 5?
Yeah,
I did. I
did
did.
too.
In fact, I only played it. I was intending to only use my EA Play or whatever 10-hour demo.
Yeah.
I ended up buying it after that thing ran out. So
Same.
Yeah.
I loved the Forza. Oh my god. Horizon 4, yeah. And then hopefully another full circle.
yeah.
It is interesting how much this is nearing
Yeah.
what we expect this year.
I mean, Battlefield. Real quick, Battlefield 5 was buggy at launch. I remember I did run into like T-posing, and you'd kill someone and they would just kind of just stand there. You weren't sure that they were dead. Like it was definitely rushed out, but I liked the
I
direction they
enjoyed
took
the
with
campaign.
it. I haven't played the campaign yet.
See, I enjoyed it. That's why I was a little bit sad by the new not having one.
Battlefield 3 had a decent campaign. Battlefield 4, I thought the campaign was horrible. I like the campaigns in Battlefield 1, which
Yep.
is why I'm surprised I haven't played through Battlefield 5. I will.
I haven't.
I'm
played
not
the campaign.
too
I heard
bothered.
the campaign's not good.
It's not nearly as good as BF1, but I
Okay.
still enjoyed it. But I'm also anthropology was my major, so I'm a history buff by design.
But yeah, I'm eager to see what.
It's interesting how easy it is just to pick up Forza and just play it whenever.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
I just started again last week. Just, you're just online chatting. You just, all right, I'll play Forza because I don't need to listen to any dialogue or music.
Mhm.
Yeah.
I mean, it was what, last week, Daniel? You and I played for a few
Yeah.
hours that went by like minutes. It was.
Yeah. We were playing for like 2 hours or something, and I'm like, holy shit! Like I gotta go to bed, dude.
Yeah. And that was the first time I played co-op, and it was seamless.
Yeah. Well,
after I figured out what buttons to push. Yeah.
Mike and I were both like, how do we even do this? We haven't-
Yeah. I was like, how do I send you an invite? And then how do I like coordinate where we should go? And
Yep.
it still looks absolutely amazing.
Please welcome from
the talent of this team.
Ralph Fulton.
Oh yeah, it's incredible.
That's why I can't wait for Fable.
Yeah. Playground is one of the best developers out there.
Yep.
Thank you so much. It is.
And considering
It's interesting
that,
because this studio makes it look so easy. You take it for granted. You're like, hey, it's just a card game. But what other card games have come out that have really
Exactly.
done this? Like, others have tried. Ubisoft puts a ton of money into their games, and they tried
Yep.
and couldn't do it.
Same with Turn 10 and how they make Forza Motorsport look. I
Sony
mean,
tried it. I mean, like, it's not that easy to do.
and they're on 2-year development cycles on top of it, right?
Yeah.
You know, and this is
Exactly.
in even last gen where 3 and 4 years were standard and normal.
quick shout out really quick. You're gonna see Rebecca Gordius out here, and she's been with Xbox since 2013. She's now one of the co-hosts on the Xbox podcast, the Major Nelson podcast.
Oh, okay.
And now she works in Minecraft, so it's really cool to see because she used to work at with the Forza team here, and that's why she's on stage. But it's random but really cool.
Is she one of the main ones, or is she one of the people in the background?
She'll be here in a second, I think, if I remember right. Yeah, right there.
Oh.
Yep, she's one of the co-hosts. So it's really cool to see how much like Xbox is. I don't know, people within the team has been able to move around. That game still looks fantastic today. Even if you go back and play it on 1X on 30, like it looks a little bit weird. Your brain has to readjust.
And this is almost a perfect demo, right? Like, you start off with a really nice, like, a trailer that does a good job communicating what the game is, and then going into gameplay.
What are your guys' thoughts on that? Because I feel like this is a perfect demo overall, but it's one of those things that you really can't do too often because of the time involved. I don't know.
I think in order to do this type of thing, you need to be within months of dropping the game, probably.
Right.
And that's the challenge. I think you're going to get to that point, maybe a little bit next year, and then definitely the year after, where that'll be a lot more possible, where you're going to have these demos of games that are around the corner.
Yeah.
When it's a year and a half, 2.5 years away, especially, anything you see is pretty much
Subject to
duct taped
change.
together. Yeah, it's subject to a lot of change. So even if it looks like a playable demo, a full slice.
Right.
Well, even this.
We've all seen the Halo documentary, right? For Halo 2, they basically said, "Hey, we could have never released that demo."
Yeah.
That was all fake.
There was no collision detection.
But even this, like, they're not really playing this live. This is pre-recorded. So, I mean, the amount of coordinating and editing that they had to have done.
I mean, this sequence right now, definitely. But I wouldn't be surprised that the sequence before may have been... because, like, that whole synchronized drift that you saw a second ago, like... I can't even do that with you, Mike, if we wanted to.
No, I suck at drifting. But I mean,
I still can't drift in this game. I cannot accomplish any of those.
Rear
I've never been a
wheel
drifter.
drive.
Yeah.
Make sure you get it.
Is that what it is? Okay.
Yeah. You get too much what do you say?
Got a new truck. I think that's what he like. You always got to have like that random hype man in the audience.
I love you, Phil.
Yeah.
Let's try Tim Dog.
The visuals and the driving experience couldn't be more different. And now a blimp has appeared over
And it's amazing about because since getting my recent like upgrades on my PC, I've been loading up older games so I loaded up Forza Horizon 3, and it still looks great, but it's crazy to how much better this one looks. I mean, Forza Horizon 3 I thought was like the pinnacle of what they were going to get out of Xbox One, and then they beat it in 2 years, and it just not only do they beat it in 2 years, but they add on 4 seasons on top of it.
Shared worlds, a whole bunch of go back and play Forza Horizon 2. That's my personal favorite, but it's insane to see, like you said, the jump between 2 and 3 even is even bigger than 3 and 4, and in some respects.
Yeah.
And it's just, I mean, the quality of that team is, especially in that genre, I think is unparalleled.
Oh yeah. And I actually just recently played it near the Series X launch to test out the Auto HDR, and honestly it still looks good. It's just you can tell it's not 4K. Like you get accustomed to pretty much every other. That's the only Horizon game, Forza Horizon, that's not 4K, and it's such a shame.
And it's funny too because I was we were playing 76, and then I went back to play Horizon 2 for just a quick rundown before going to bed the other night, and I felt like it was running poorly, but it was just because it was 30, and it's like your brain adjusts.
I think this is the announcement.
Yeah.
My team and I take our
It'd be interesting to see if this comes full circle too.
to make Xbox.
I'm surprised you didn't change his shirt for this.
I know, right? It was always like the game of like, what shirt does he have? Is that the State of Decay shirt?
No, it looks like it might be the Gamers Reach shirt or something. It's the same one he had in the beginning. In the 2013 press conference, though, he started off with State of Decay, and then
Undead Labs.
He had someone else. He had another shirt like halfway through.
Yeah. God, look at how small.
What is it? 5 studios?
Yeah, 5 or 6. I can't see.
They call it 6 because Global Publishing they counted as a studio.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. And then
you had Minecraft. So you really had 4 studios that could make games that were you might reveal at a
Hey, don't diminish Minecraft.
I'm not. It's their biggest moneymaker. I'm just saying that it's that's not the only one my son cares about.
This is awesome.
A visionary storyteller who has worked across some of the
so that's we're probably not going to see anything for that for another year or 2.
Yeah.
Probably, yeah.
It's not gonna come out until 2023. I bet you.
Probably.
Maybe 2024.
I think
they want to do it right, and they were still building a team up until during the pandemic.
Yeah. And the way that they're like organically building that team, it's a complete opposite approach to like what they did with 343, where they gave them, they gave Bonnie and everyone a blank check. They'll hire the best talent you can.
I was stoked for pretty much every one of these. I mean, Undead Labs is super close to my heart. Super small developer when they were purchased, and they made one of my favorite.
Is a legend, man. Like,
I mean, these are some big. This is a pretty nice start.
Yeah.
Right after this, they basically doubled their studios.
And I remember seeing. Trying to think of what it might have been GameSpot. I saw some stream shortly after this came out, and everyone in the comments was like, "Who are these studios?" I'm like, "What?"
Oh my god. Well, I mean, the state of
this one.
This one shocked everybody. Like there was rumors about Playground. I think Clover actually broke that.
And Playground was.
We knew about the initiative, right?
Yeah.
Playground might as well have been exclusive because they only worked with Xbox. Same thing with Undead Labs.
Same with Undead. Yep.
But this one.
Yeah, that was the shocker. I think Ninja Theory.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's going to turn out to be a really important studio. I think long term.
Yeah. for me, every game they've put out has been amazing. Enslaved was, I could nerd out about Andy Serkis and that whole involvement, but
And this is always the wild card. Like every studio they brought in, you could identify exactly why that studio was there. This is the one we know they have BioShock devs. We know they went through some issues with the last game. They have really good artists and storytellers. But yeah, I am really curious what it was that they saw behind the scenes that made them say, okay, we're going to include you with Playground, Ninja Theory, Obsidian, like all that. Every other studio they purchased, I completely
you could easily
understood.
justify.
That was the one. I almost felt like throwing something against the wall, but it obviously, I mean, wouldn't really make sense, right? So there had to be something.
Yeah, they've got it. I mean, the entire studio is just veterans from around the industry, and even though We Happy Few, you could tell it was a troubled development, and it was clearly not the budget that we'll be seeing them get with the next game. But I struggle to think of other games that have the world building that We Happy Few does. I mean, there's a lot of jank. There were, especially at launch, there were tons of issues, but it was so 1960s dystopian England that no other game really had ever done, to this extent.
Oh, you're right. From an art and storytelling and world building, there really isn't anything else similar to it.
Yeah.
I mean, it has a little bit of a BioShocky feel, but it's completely its own thing, right?
Right.
I say this every time I talk about this game or people talk about this game. Watch the video, The Cost of Joy.
Yeah,
it's a really, really good video. Really highlights just what it took to make this game and the ups and downs they
have.
Yeah, because like when they first demoed, what was it, 2016, 2015, where they did the demo on stage.
Mm-hmm.
That they didn't expect people to be clamoring for like the BioShock type feel that was presented in that demo. They were very much aiming for the survival type
procedural generation.
Yeah, that the early access was primarily
this
about,
pivot was really quick. Like they did this game in a really short period of time on a limited budget with a small team. Mm-hmm. So that's one thing I will say to keep a lookout for. Like maybe this E3, probably not till next, but again, talking to my dev friend who works with UE5 right now, is like these types of studios that are good in everything else. Watch what's going to happen when they get the tools that help them easily produce animations and graphics that are AAA.
Right.
So that could be one of those visionary type of.
The fact that we are not hearing anything.
I did too.
What now?
PUBG.
Oh, I love this game. This is my guilty pleasure.
I've got like maybe 2 to 3 kills in my entire life playing.
I have like
I just don't know where
hours of this.
From.
It just makes me think of when you and I first started playing Abe, and you were still playing Dark Souls 2, and you're like, this is bullshit. I can't hit anything. And that's what I imagine you in PUBG.
They changed that Dark Souls. Anyways, that's another topic for another day.
What's funny too is like the game never runs.
The iframes are broken in Dark Souls.
On Series X it does finally.
Well, yeah.
On last gen, no, not at all. And it's a shame that they have not done a proper update for this yet.
Mm-hmm.
It started off so hot.
If anything, they actually made it look worse.
It's still big, right?
Yeah, it's still big. I think it's one of those games that's going to be like around for years, and you're going to be like, that's still around, and then you look and it's got like, I don't know, 10 million people or whatever it is now.
Oh, this is before the winter update.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's funny how skewed our perspective of time has become in terms of like when things were released because of just getting old, but also COVID.
Like that. 2020 might as well have not happened.
Yeah, it was like extremely short and long at the same time.
I remember this.
Tales of
This
Vesperia.
was a big deal to have on this stage. Well, to me, it was a big deal. This being
I
on the
mean,
stage.
it had anime in it, so it all blended together with anything else I've seen anime in the last 3 years.
You shut your mouth.
Sorry, I don't mean to offend our audience.
This is the best Tales game.
Agreed.
At least until
Before that, it
Rise.
was yeah, hopefully it's a new one will be good.
And truth be told, I do say that, not beating it. my scale of games is basically of just what I've played.
Yeah.
But I did get pretty far on the 360 original. And then I think, oh, you know what? This is one of the casualties of me losing all my saves. When I accidentally deleted all my saves, this is one of the games affected, and I just couldn't get back into it. I was actually really disappointed that the console releases weren't... They were 1080p, where, especially like on the One X, it could have easily been 4K.
I think whenever the music gets loud, you kind of mute you a little bit.
Yeah.
So we can't hear what you're saying, which is I'll just keep it out of my head.
Error.
Well, it's not that important.
It's fine. It's only when the music gets loud.
The game is good.
Yeah. Yes.
That's all I needed to hear, so I can forget about it immediately.
I do hope
after.
Tales of Rise, is it called?
Yeah, Tales of Arise.
Yeah, I hope that
World premiere.
lives up to my expectations.
I would love for David Attenborough to do
Washington,
the
D.C.,
world premiere
The
voice.
most heavily protected
World premiere.
Within its limits, 177.
Every time I see something start off like this, I'm hoping it's Splinter Cell, right? Who
Yeah.
else was thinking that?
Ubisoft hates anybody who enjoys Splinter Cell. That's
They
it.
mess with us like every.
And it's such a shame too, because they can model Splinter Cell after the Metal Gear 5,
27 days after
and that would fall within their open world wheelhouse. And
No, they just shouldn't do any. They should do maybe hubs.
no, I agree with you. I prefer them not to make open world, but knowing
But if they
Ubisoft-
wanted an easy route, they could do that.
Yeah, knowing Ubisoft, it would either be Splinter Cell and open world or no Splinter Cell, and I'll take.
I mean, you could do what they did in Metal Gear, right? Like Metal Gear 5.
Well, that's what I
like
just
that.
said.
Oh, did you? Oh,
Yeah.
Sorry, I was too.
centuries
You went down a little bit. So
I know you're tuning me out. I get it.
I'm just tuning you out.
No, you do, like, anytime something gets loud on here, I just have to watch your mouth, which with no glasses, I'm like, well.
6 months after the
Wah,
outbreak,
wah, 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 wah.
a remnant of the lurks in the shadows.
This is a Division 2, right?
Division 2.
Yeah.
Yeah, I was so into this game for like 20 hours, and then
But how do you
I don't know.
I wanted to
Jesse
get
keeps
into it.
stopped for a few days, and then I never went back.
Yeah,
I
Jesse
didn't
keeps
know-
telling everybody that it's amazing, and I played it after the 60 frames patch came out, and it's good, but there's too many shared world games these days
Yeah.
that I just don't have the time.
They just want to be a job for you.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
I think
Well,
at the end of the day, you can only pick one of these to be like your
Yeah.
side thing, right?
And that's
You
part
go
of the
back.
problem where games as a service, shared open world, I mean, there's a lot of overlap there. I mean, not only is there a lot of competition there, and they're all competing for your time,
Yeah.
but on top of that, the jump from sequel to sequel, it's tough to make people, jump on the following games.
Yeah.
I mean, I
Have you
remember.
ever been in the jungle in this game? By the way, I don't remember ever seeing
I
it.
don't recall this ever happening, but I
I was
also,
like, well, this looks kind of neat. I want to try this level.
yeah. I remember seeing this, and I was like, man, look at that leaf go by as you touch it, and the collision detection reacts realistically. And same thing here, and I'm like, oh, man.
No, this
You
looks
never
cool.
Yeah.
I beat the first game, and I really enjoyed what I played of this one. But unlike the first game, I didn't have anyone to play this one with. Well, any of my friends that played online at the time, they didn't get into this.
Cue the Travolta meme.
Oh, yeah. It took me a second.
No, I definitely wasn't. I've never seen any of this stuff actually.
Yeah, I haven't either.
I don't know if it's in the game or just it's 80 hours in somewhere.
Yeah.
I only need to play another 60 hours to get this far.
It's like I remember some of that in The Last of Us too.
Yeah.
Okay, meet us at the sinkhole? Yep. Okay, sure.
It's a gorgeous game.
It
Oh,
is.
it is. Yeah, absolutely.
And I think
I mean, that's. Go ahead, Mike.
I think this is one of the few games, enhanced games, in
Wow.
FPS boost. The resolution doesn't drop. Like you get the
Well,
same
'cause this
4K 60.
You should have a
Wasn't
new
this
side
one
mission
actually
on that.
optimized, and it wasn't like it was Series X optimized, and it's not just an FPS boost game? I think.
No, this is
recall
FPS
correctly.
They're
boost.
just ahead of us.
Is it?
Yeah, unless there was another update I'm not aware of. It at the time it was FPS boost.
You know,
Maybe
maybe
that
I'll
was
have to
the-
give this another
I'll
try.
be up in a
Was it
second.
this one or was it the first one? This one, no, you might be right.
Leveled up.
I know
This one might be
we
optimized, and maybe it's the first
Chemical residue detected.
division that is FPS boost.
Hey, you guys should
I think
really
no,
check
I
this
think
out.
you're right.
Yeah,
Almost there.
yeah.
Because,
it got a next gen patch. That
Yeah, yeah.
Increased it to 60 and all that kind of stuff.
You know what I will say makes a big difference with these games, and I only experienced it a little bit with Destiny 2, is lowering those loading times. It just it
Yeah.
changes, because I think that's one of the reasons I tune this game out. It's just like, you know, having to. It's like, okay, I fast traveled here. Oh shoot, I gotta go back, and it's like, okay, now I've just wasted 4 minutes of game time just because I made a mistake traveling.
I mean,
Yeah,
it's,
that's a lot better.
yeah, I think it's
post-patch.
4 seconds or something now, or 7 seconds. Like it's under 10 seconds if I remember correctly. At least the fast travel in this.
Even on my spinning platter drive, it still loads a lot faster.
So that can make a huge difference, because to me, I just felt like I was wasting too much time doing stuff like that. When you can just bounce all over the map quickly,
Yep.
and you're playing at 60 frames, all these things do feel a lot better.
Agreed.
Yep.
I might
That's
just
the
get
Used
crazy
to be
thing.
atrocious for loading.
What, this game?
It's a
Destiny.
lot
Oh,
better.
Destiny,
It's a
yeah.
lot better.
Yeah, it is now. I haven't played it in months now. I gave up.
And that's the thing, like Frostbite games, Unreal Engine 4 games, a lot of games last gen had horrible loading.
Oh, absolutely.
But it's such
To me, that's even. Maybe I'm in the minority. That's even worse to me than the 30 frames. The loading times. That's one of the reasons I
depending on
wouldn't
the
go
game,
back
I
to play
agree,
the
yeah.
xCloud.
Because like you
So-
can get around a lower frame rate if you have like good motion blur and stuff, whereas long load times, they're always there.
So I will be the counter opinion here. So I used to have 2 Series X's. One was in the bedroom, one was in the living room, and in the living room, in my old house, I also had a 1X. So my wife would get to play on the big TV and the Series X, and I would have to play on the 1X when we wanted to play in the same room. Going back to 30 frames per second on Destiny 2 was hard as hell. I mean, once it's weird. It's like your brain kind of resets your benchmark, and so once you get used to that new frame rate, it's. But I mean, in most of these cases, we don't have to choose. We got both better loading and boosted frames.
Guys want to check out the plane? Let's go.
You know, watching this game
Yes,
again,
good.
it reminds me, this game plays really, really well. It has really good AI. I wish they would make a single player game with all the exact same controls and everything else.
That would just be okay with you beating it and then walking away.
Or just walk me through it, like just point, like go here, go, like make it simple. I just want to just go through and shoot it all.
Let's check it out.
I need smaller, more linear games now.
Yeah. Too many games are too afraid to let you finish the game. Especially Ubisoft games. You have 1,000 different activities and events and collectibles and things like that. And this is not that different. I mean, it's a little bit scaled back, but I
might play that again. I think I'm gonna go ahead and play that. That reminds me, it's a really good gameplay.
The crazy thing is, they have 1,000+ teams working on like Assassin's Creed and stuff.
Yeah.
Cut those teams in half.
Yeah,
Your budget,
make a smaller game.
Make a lower budget game, and you can pump out more of them.
Special time for gamers.
The quality doesn't have to suffer.
Incredible games
Exactly.
To play. Storied franchises, uncharted worlds.
I don't remember her.
New releases, and cult
I think she's been on a couple of the.
Yeah, she was on
still
last
part of
year,
it?
I think,
Okay.
too.
Mm-hmm.
In the 2020,
There's only one
or
problem.
it was either 2020 or 2019. She was also on that.
Again, I don't time. What is it?
But yeah, I mean, it's kind of a lull, but it's a good time to do it. Like, we've had a lot of games,
You could play them all.
and at least everything that she talks about here is good.
Yeah, I mean, everything she's talking about right now is the foundation of what we're seeing now, of what Game Pass has become.
I forgot. This is the first E3 where Game Pass was just starting off to be what it is today, right?
Right.
In terms of the
Right.
day one releases, that just started before this E3, I think.
Mhm.
Well, we
Yeah,
said
Sea of
Sea of
Thieves was the
Thieves
first
was
Yeah,
the
Sea of
first one.
Thieves was the first one. Yeah, Sea
3
of
months
Thieves
before.
and State of Decay were the first two games. Oh, Fast Start.
So
Yeah.
back
Oh, that's
back then, like you could see it coming, especially when they announced the studios. But I feel like 99% of the gaming population did not get it, including the gaming media.
Oh,
I remember
absolutely.
Ben Hansen, when he was with Game Informer, I think it was 2019. He was sitting there. I think he was in the audience, and he mentioned that like when they started doing the announcements for Game Pass games, like the pop it got, like totally threw him off. He's like, I didn't get it. It's like, and then I stepped back and thought about it. I was like, oh, wait a second, these guys don't get all those codes. You know, it's like this is really a big difference to them in terms of
Yeah,
the way
exactly.
they play. And I think it took a while for like even the media for that to kind of sink in, right? Because it was okay, it's another service, but to the average gamer, it changes the paradigm for how they they do things.
You can actually play more than 3 or 4 games a year because you don't have to worry about being able to afford more than 3 or 4 games a year. And it's funny too because it was because of that kind of entitlement that I think a lot of the media had with, like you said, review codes and things like that. They never really talk about value in a lot of their reviews because they don't have to buy them. But if you're spending $70 for an 8-hour game, I mean, it does change your perspective on that as somebody who has to buy your games. I don't know, it's crazy.
And I think for a lot of people, the value aspect probably didn't hit home until maybe sometime throughout this year, because you have Sea of Thieves, you have State of Decay, both of them were troubling at launch. It kind of went along with the stigma that if something launches on Game Pass, the quality has to suffer, where it really doesn't.
Right, and that was the next thing I was going to say too, is that remember after this we saw so many articles saying, oh well, they're just going to have a bunch of games as service games, they're going to have games that are full of microtransactions, that's the only way they'll make money. And yet, as our article and our video showed, that's the exact opposite. There's far more single player games.
For the audience that hasn't seen it yet, watch our article and video.
Yeah,
we got the data to back it up.
I mean,
no, you're right.
And all of them play.
It was a meme at the time, right?
Yeah,
and I can see
even
why.
then it wasn't right. Like it was.
But when you consider that Sea of Thieves and State of Decay were the first 2 games from Microsoft, those are both games as service games and stuff like that. So I can see why, but when you think about it,
what's funny about State of Decay is that there's not a single microtransaction in that game.
No, and same thing with Sea of Thieves at the time. That's why I don't get the microtransaction angle. I did understand the games as a service angle just because of the output from Microsoft at the time. But it's when you think about it, though, Game Pass is the perfect service. It's the perfect platform for those single-player games, because especially with all the options that people have out in the market, if I were to tell you, even for $60, you can get Destiny, that you can get like 200 hours out of Destiny, or I can sell you a single-player game for 12 to 15 hours. And one is much more attractive to you, or to, I think, the average person, especially when if they only buy so many games a year. But that's where Game Pass is just awesome, where you can play them both.
And
That's a great game right there.
Yeah, Children of Morta is fantastic. After Party was amazing.
You know, that's exactly what the Game Pass. So, like, Children of Morta, I would have never even looked at that game. Would have never noticed it in the store. It ended up being one of my top 20 games of the last generation, you know? And it's just, it was sitting there. I was like, all right, I'll just give it an hour and see if it.
A lot of these games still have not come out, like Sable.
Yeah, there were a couple.
Ashen came out.
I agree with you. Children of Morta was totally off my radar, and then I downloaded it, started playing it, and I was hooked. 60 hours.
I think this game gets a bad rap.
It does.
Oh, totally.
This is another one I didn't buy. I played it in Game Pass, and I actually liked it better than the one before it.
The first game is good. The second game is even better, but this one was the closest that they've come to like the classic Tomb Raider titles.
Yeah, agreed.
I can see that. I think I still like Rise a little bit better because of some of the locales and things like that. But in terms of old school structure, this is definitely more. But yeah, it absolutely gets better rap. It's still, I know this might be a hot take, but this is like Godfather 3 for me in that it's not as good as the second one, but I still love it. What have I done? Please don't hate me.
The second one, I mean, now, really, we should make a drinking game every time I say this. I haven't beaten this yet, but...
Hey, okay, all right, I'll stop you there really quick. Most of us haven't been able to beat, any of us adults don't beat most of the games we play. I bet you're on my backlog. You're probably 800 games deep now.
Oh, yeah. But I did beat the first two games, though. That's kind of where it's slightly less excusable for me to not beat this one. But, I mean, from what I played of this one so far, this so far is my favorite, but it can easily... I love the second one. The second one, to me, is amazing. So, I can definitely see it where it still ends up being my favorite in the end. But see, like, the animals, I miss the greater focus on animals and puzzles and stuff.
I mean, you missed the T-Rexes, too?
Oh, man, I would love to have a T-Rex. You know what? If this game had a T-Rex, it would be automatically my favorite. I would absolutely love that. I mean, you kind of saw the downfall just in the earlier Tomb Raiders, too, because especially like Tomb Raider 2, you fought a lot more
See, that
humans.
was fun. Those puzzles were what the other ones are missing.
Yeah, the puzzles were fantastic.
The second one kind of addressed it.
Yeah, the story wasn't very good in this game. I think that's where it got hit. But the environments and the puzzles and just kind of like the pacing, I liked the slower pacing. It felt like a classic Tomb Raider because of it,
Yeah.
A lot more exploring. And
the second one tried to address it because the second one had the tombs.
It was more combat, though, I think.
Yeah, it was definitely more combat. And the tombs in this one, I think, are more elaborate than the ones in the second one from what I played so far.
Right.
Yeah, they are.
And it's gorgeous.
Yeah, another game I would
amazing.
never have played because it came out to really bad, mediocre reviews, right? And then it was in Game Pass, so I tried it out.
It's FPS boost too, and enhanced.
Session Skate. I don't know.
We're still waiting for this, right?
This. I thought this was Skate. This is oh my god, I gotta remember this before this.
I think it's Session, isn't it?
Yeah, Session.
Yeah.
Did that come out?
No, not yet.
I can't remember.
I mean, now they've
re-released
Tony Hawk, so
the Shadow Man of the camera. They're the Shadow Man. The shadow of the cameraman. I wonder.
I haven't been into skateboarding games since the 90s, so
I love the Tony Hawk remakes.
I take it back. Pro Skater 3 on GameCube, 2001, I think. Yeah, so that was the last
one. Pro Skater. Oh, Tony Hawk. That was 2, wasn't it? That was Tony Hawk 2, right? Or no, Tony Hawk 3. That was Tony Hawk 3 because Tony Hawk 2 came out on the Xbox, if I remember correctly. God,
yeah, 3 came out on the Xbox and GameCube, 2001.
They say you only live once.
No, Black Desert Online.
Yeah. I remember. I forgot what stream I watched at the time.
My first home
After the fact, or like they were like thinking this is Fable.
Curiosity I gained there cost me my first life.
This always looked really cool. I bought it when it first came out. I still have not played any of it.
Have you not loaded it up at least?
No.
It's beautiful, but it's also got one of the most complex combat systems in MMO that I've ever seen. Like, you know, coming from where most games are basically like click, wait for your cooldown, all that kind of stuff. This is very much more action driven. You know, like it's almost like a fighting game in terms of how complex some
like
of the
Devil May Cry, kind of.
More so. I mean, Devil May Cry
Really?
honestly doesn't have the complexity of this game. Like, yeah, if you look at the like any of your character skill lists and how to actually you know, enact the combos and all that kind of stuff, it's insane. And you know, as somebody who doesn't have that time to dedicate, like it's always been intimidating. So like I'll load it up and kill a few things and be like, okay, I'm intimidated, I'm gonna go now.
That sounds intriguing though. Like on paper, that sounds pretty cool. I've just, but like you say, I mean, I know it's one of those games you have to invest a lot of time in. That's what I heard, and that's why I've never really even started.
I mean, with games like this, I would need someone to hold my hand, at least in the beginning. Show me the ropes.
See,
I don't want to go through a
Sherpa.
bunch of tutorials.
Well, first, did you have your vaccination before you hold your hand?
I am fully vaxxed.
Oh man, we're dating this one for sure. Pandemic, COVID, vaccination. We're gonna look back and just be like, remember those days? Speaking of Devil May Cry.
Yeah.
This was a great game. I did not know I liked Devil May Cry until I tried it on Game Pass.
So
wait, you never played a Devil May Cry game before?
No, and in fact, the first one I ever played was the
Ninja Theory reboot.
Yeah, and that got me to buy this. And this was one of my top 10 games maybe in last generation. It was up there. A lot of fun.
This is a great game.
I'm now on the final difficulty. The what do you call it? And I got to the final boss and the final difficulty, and I didn't beat the final boss. Really hard.
Maybe this is another hot take, and it's also because my bias towards Ninja Theory, but I absolutely love their reboot more than any other Devil May Cry.
It was really good.
I need to give this one.
I like it.
I didn't have anything else to go by, so I wasn't like jaded thinking, you know, it had to be like any of the previous ones.
See, I played the originals when they came out, and I liked them, but the combat was so clunky. It was never as fluid or fast as what Ninja Theory. Like Ninja Theory has always gotten combat down.
Did you play the original or the?
Oh no, the original on PS2. Nope, PS2.
No. I'm sorry. The DMC. Did you play the PS3 360 or did you play the Xbox One?
I played 360.
So you even liked it better with 30 frames.
Do what?
You even liked it better at 30 frames.
Yeah, because even though it was a slower, like that was the thing that was weird to me. Like even though it wasn't 60 like the old ones, the combat itself flowed better. Like your ability to create combos without having that slow clunky break in between was so much better in my opinion.
See, I didn't play it until the PS. I played the PS4 version, and I enjoyed it. I really did. But I figured my impressions was skewed because I played it at 60. I didn't play the 30.
Yeah, no, I bought them both. That's one of those games that I loved so much that I bought it twice.
Yeah, I was one of the naysayers. I'm like, I'm not playing this at 30. Even though I think I did. I think there might have been a demo, and I thought the demo did
was a demo.
feel good for a 30 frame per second game. But that between that
had some of the best world design I've ever seen. Like the world shifts and things that they had.
Oh
in
yeah,
the game.
yeah.
That was really cool.
Plus, I didn't really care for Dante's
original, right? Like
design.
just everything was different about it compared to.
It's kind of crazy that, like, I didn't care for Dante's design, and I know a lot of longtime fans didn't. But here's the crazy thing: that was because of Capcom. Capcom was the one that like dictated that type of design. There's I have to look for it, but there's a really good like behind the scenes video I saw detailing the video.
Ever since. So this is our
The
response, loud and clear.
what do you call it? The development of that game.
And Hideaki Itsuno are back.
I hope they come out with another Devil May Cry. I don't think it did. It didn't do bad, but I don't think it did really, really well.
Yeah, it didn't light the charts on fire, but it didn't do bad. I mean, they re-released
it was middling game. It's one of the things that people tend to forget about Capcom games that until recently, with Monster Hunter and Resident Evil 7, like none of their games really set the charts on fire until those, you know.
Well, even I think RE7 was a slower burn too.
It was a very slow burn to get where it was, but it, yeah. And I always wonder how much of those were, you know, on sale purchases and things like that, which obviously
Well, there was a lot of hesitation because it was first person.
I still haven't beaten it because I cannot adjust to the first person. Like I used to be a Resident Evil fanatic, but I don't know. I think 4 was the last great mainline.
I gotta tune you out. I'm ready to have a stroke right now.
It's
a good game. Don't get me wrong. It's a great game.
The other thing is like 7 at least, and maybe I just haven't gotten far enough into it. It doesn't feel like a Resident Evil game. Resident Evil: The Village with like werewolves and all this other kind of stuff doesn't even like at that point. Just give it a new name, and then I'm okay with it. But I don't know.
Oh wait, we're still waiting for this DLC, right?
Wait, this never came out?
The original game. Yeah.
No, this is DLC.
This is DLC.
And this never came out.
I freaking love this game too. This is another one of my favorites the last generation. But I've never seen the DLC, obviously.
I can't even imagine how much effort goes into developing this kind of game.
Well, yeah, it's gotta take a long time. I'm sure they probably got burnt out at some point. By the way, Mike, did you beat this one?
No, I did not beat this game. Do your shots, fellas.
Feign my shock.
He would have been one of those media guys that would have been getting made fun of.
Yeah. No.
Rob told the real story about that, by the way.
Yeah, I remember. I felt so sorry for that guy. Oh, Tunic.
Oh, here's the other one. Yep, we just saw this today.
Yeah, we're going to get to be able to play the demo next week.
Yeah, I can't wait. This, Sable, what
3
else?
years if we finally get to play the demo.
Isn't it one person making this, though?
Yeah.
It
I thought that
is.
was,
I think they're having help with music or something.
Right, but in terms of art and coding and everything, it's I think it's just the one person still.
It is. It looks really good for one person.
Yeah. And you, like you say, like imagine what people will be able to do with newer tools.
Yeah.
You know, I wonder how much GameStack will help with that too, especially if they start bundling in id Tech or some other, you know, engine as
across the
middleware.
board. Yeah, I think across the board you're going to start seeing things get. That's going to be the key, is like streamlining it so developers can get what's in their head out as efficiently as possible.
God, it's beautiful.
It's got a really nice art style.
Yeah, and it's like a blend of Zelda meets Monument Valley.
Yeah.
It's just gorgeous.
It's probably the closest to a classic Zelda you'll get on Xbox.
Yeah.
That tiny fox in a big world is a prime example of the reach of gaming today. A labor of love conceived and created by a single developer in Halifax, Nova Scotia, is today commanding gaming's largest stage.
And imagine when they're going to be able to just access the dev kits in the cloud. You don't even need a building. You don't need a supercomputer. You can use free tools to start as long as you give them a percentage and you sell it. It's like it's nuts.
We're on the cusp of another revolution.
People don't realize that this whole thing about trying to trap a bunch of games and money hats and stuff. You're not going to be able to contain them all. They're going to be a lot more talented people making cool stuff that are just going to be looking to just to get some mind share and get noticed. It's going to be the biggest challenge for them, I think.
This community is the reason why we love premiering games here at E3. For the rest
All
of our
those
briefing,
leaves on the ground.
everything you
Yeah,
show you
from the
will be
Forza
world
demo.
Yeah.
games no one has seen before.
Outer Wilds is another one I have to go back and try to beat. That's
I
one
need
I haven't
to.
got far in.
Yeah.
I got frustrated with the flying, and I never really. But everybody says if you get past that, it's
One of the best
games.
experiences. Yeah.
Their creative
So
team
I don't want to see what the spoilers are because I heard that that's like everything.
now
Yeah.
you get to see the first look.
This just makes me sad about how many games of these I haven't beaten yet.
Yeah.
Then you get sad and then you look at Mike and you realize you're not from
Mike's
Yeah,
what happens when you don't beat any of your games.
Yeah. Like in most things in life, when you look at it, you're like, well, it could be worse. Man, I remember this. This blew me away too.
Which one was this?
I don't remember.
Things have changed.
Jump Force.
Oh.
Oh my god.
I never played this one either.
Yeah, I heard this actually was not that good.
Nah. I mean, it's alright, but
It did nothing for me.
I think this was another game that was native 4K and it ran at like didn't have a great performance on the Xbox, which is why I didn't get it.
This is another one that got Metacritic bombed.
Yeah.
I mean, not that that's everything, but you know.
Well,
it was on Game Pass for a bit, right?
Yeah, and I tried to
remember,
play
was it?
through it, but the beginning
I
just
still
put
never
me to
played it.
sleep.
That's the other thing that's great about Game Pass is that it democratizes gaming in the way that people who used to rely on reviews to make up their mind for them, they don't have to rely on those anymore. They actually have the ability to, make their own decision.
Like I was just mentioning with a few of those games that I would have, that Tomb Raider, I would have never played it, never bought it on sale even, just because of the way people said it was mediocre.
Yeah, I'm one of those statistics like they were talking about today, where I'll play a game on Game Pass and then I want to buy it. It's so good that I want to buy it before it goes out, and I end up buying more games often when they're on sale or whatever than I would have probably before, because I save those $60-$70 for the big tentpole games that I don't have to do anymore because they're all on Game Pass.
Yeah.
It's been
What was this one?
years since
The
city is a corpse.
I don't.
Not Dead Island. Dying Light.
Oh wow.
The other one we're still waiting for. Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh,
I think
that's another
we'll finally get
trouble
to maybe see this come full circle this weekend.
What was this
Got a
trailer?
December release date now.
Yeah.
It was this trailer that I'm like, I don't know if this is going to be
Anything close to what we see?
Yeah, well, it was one of those things that made me question if it was going to drop last gen. Yeah, because the first Dying Light was a PS3 360, Xbox One, PS4. And then they dropped the last gen versions. And I thought we were going to see the same thing here. But for better or worse,
The first one was fantastic too.
Oh, I love the first one.
Yeah.
I never got that far.
It spawned, or I don't know if there are many games that do the same type of thing, but it definitely created a new kind of zombie subgenre. Proved that you could do it in first person for sure, at least.
Yeah, and the parkour
The
was
traversal
really
system
good.
was-
Yeah. I mean, it's the best parkour since Mirror's Edge. Yep.
Yeah.
Isn't that enhanced now? It's got the higher
It
frame
is.
rate.
It's got the FPS
frame
boost.
rate.
Maybe I need to go get. I do remember like that was maybe a little bit of an issue doing the parkour in 30 frames or.
I think it had like frame pacing issues and stuff too.
Oh
Yeah.
Oh man. This aged like milk.
Yeah.
Who's this?
Yeah.
Chris Avalon.
Oh.
Yeah.
No,
He
like
did look kind of douchey. Now that kind of connects the dots right there.
Yeah.
Dying Light 2 is everything you'd expect from a bold
yeah, if you're ever interested in playing the first one, Abe, let me
Talented
know.
writer, but not a good person.
Yeah. And the latter does not. I mean the good writing does not make up for anything. So.
No.
Nope.
Defeat on anyone they can find.
We're gonna say, Mike. I'm sorry, I cut you off. Like,
Yeah.
only
If you're
for
ever
the
down to
seventh
play it,
time
let
or
me
so.
know because
A bleak and
you can
unforgiving reality that
you
we
can play
call
through 99% of the game in co-op. I'm just gonna
I
say
forgot
that.
about that. That's another game that I just I played by myself, and my wife would be watching, and she'd be like, "I can't watch this anymore. I gotta go," because it can be terrifying at points.
Especially at night.
Oh yeah.
God, it was so good at night.
Yeah.
The thing that does excite me about what they were talking about here, and we'll have to see if it comes true, is when they're talking about the option to make decisions that might change the playthrough or the ending. So it has some actual RPG elements, but
you
we'll
hear
see
that
if
so many times where you can shape the world and stuff, and
it's usually just a binary 1 or 2, you know.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm hoping, but again, Abe, like you and I are always talking about, you know, the AI, machine learning, open AI partnership that Microsoft has the potential to enable us to see games that are far more reactive, including from a narrative, from a branching narrative standpoint. So I don't think we'll see it with this, but I'm just saying future.
In the future, yeah.
Yeah, with especially with first party games. I mean, think about Obsidian's. Like if you've ever watched any of their like no clip or making of videos that they've had, and you look at their branching narratives and how OpenAI and you know, the GPT-3 language for machine learning can take a lot of those and kind of piece them to build new combinations. I mean, it's extremely exciting.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. No, I'm very excited about the Western RPGs this generation. You know, I say when it comes to open worlds, I get tired, but I think the difference with those types of games is you don't have to beat them to have fun. You can play for 20, 30 hours to screw around and you know, mess around in a town and, you know, just try different things and it feels like you still
impact the world.
You got something out of it. It doesn't feel like I just wasted time trying to go collect a bunch of stuff.
Yeah, they're not like it's not overwhelming like a Ubisoft game is, where it's just a sea of icons and you don't know where to start, what to do, and
that's why Bethesda was such a big deal to me, because you know, like Skyrim is one of those games I've probably put 600, 700 hours in, and I still don't think I've experienced everything, and that in itself is just, you know, yes, they're janky, yes, they may not be the most technically impressive looking from the first glance or whatever, but they're some of the most engrossing experiences that I've ever had.
It's completely different.
Exactly.
I mean, Oblivion and Skyrim both, I think, were technically impressive for their time. I don't know how well they aged.
Yeah.
But
and so was Fallout 4, you know. But
Fallout 3, I mean, honestly, even all of them were for their time.
Yeah, but you know, people skew their perception of it based on a game that comes out 2 years later or 3 years, or a game that's immensely smaller, you know.
By the way, that Dying Light looked a lot better than I remember it. I actually want to play it right now.
Yeah.
You always knew this day would come.
Is this Battletoads?
Yeah, it is.
The three of you will be needed again. You always.
This had a few hours of fun.
What?
The last third of it.
Everybody forgot about it.
I thought it was fun.
It was.
I didn't beat it, but I thought it was fun.
Oh,
you didn't beat this game? You could beat this game.
No, I'm close to
lunch
it.
Break.
I know. I'm close to it. I enjoyed what I played. I just didn't.
The last third of it felt like it was made by a different developer.
Oh, really?
Yeah, I mean, you know, the original games had the you know, variety in gameplay style, and this one did too. But then the last third was just completely random. Like there was a puzzle where you had to you had a control panel and you had to do
where I'm at.
5 different things. Yeah,
that was not good. That was the worst.
That's where I was at. I put it down because I was like, wait, what?
Yeah,
I think I was tired or maybe I was drunk. I don't remember, but like I was having issues. I was having issues at this one last puzzle
being
where you had
drunk
to
is probably the way you need to play that.
And I was like, you know what? I'm going to put this down and try it sometime later.
Just Cause 4. Well, didn't run or look any.
No one was ready for it.
It was a huge.
You may want to pay
improvement
attention
over
to
3.
this developer.
Maybe.
They are the world's
Hey,
most powerful private army. But even they should fear what they've created.
I mean,
cool.
It's
You know,
what
they made an open world sandbox a lot of people liked. I never gave this a shot though, but I know
it's fun. I
people
just
that really
played this
did
a couple
enjoy
weeks
this.
ago. It's on Game Pass.
Yeah, just you're cutting out again, Mike.
It's on Game Pass. I played it a couple weeks ago.
Yeah, it is.
It's fun.
Just Cause 2, when it
It
came
came
out,
back to Game Pass, right? Like that's just weird timing.
Yeah. Yeah.
what world am I in? I'm the one. Not saying it's. And this is water.
They're good at the combat and the water and everything.
Well, I mean,
Just
what?
Cause 2,
It's
when
the
it came out was.
it's the industry's worst secret. Where I mean, Jeff Grubb has said that they're working on Project Typhoon. Right. Right.
I didn't hear what you said because it's cutting out again.
Every time it gets loud, yeah.
I'm just quoting Jeff. That's if I'm wrong, then we can blame Jeff.
World premiere.
Daniel, don't say anything.
What? I didn't say anything.
Jeff has said it.
Oh
I'm
my
just
God,
saying
you
what Jeff
remember
said.
When this was Gears Pop, I was like, what the hell?
And the crazy thing is,
showing down to like a 6 right here.
the crazy thing is, Phil didn't want to do this.
Yeah.
But what's his name? He used to be head of Gears. Now he's at Blizzard.
Ron Ferguson?
Yeah.
I was just guessing.
Whoa,
I was hoping I understood what you were asking.
What the hell? It just
I don't remember the
jumped.
transition being that fast.
No, it wasn't.
No. And this is like halfway into the.
Yeah, they completely skipped over Gears Tactics.
Absolutely not.
Yeah.
We have orders.
Well,
You'll go with me.
This game was also best when it was linear. When it was linear, it was like a 9. When it was open world, it was like
I'll push Jack the coordinates.
7.5.
I don't know. I thought it was integrated well because
Yeah, I enjoyed it.
you were able to go do side things that were quick little side missions that they weren't. They
I
weren't
agree that it's
half-assed.
definitely better.
I mean,
you know,
don't get me wrong. The best moments are the campaign moments, but
The first and the last missions were the best. I think the part of the second was good too, but it does get inconsistent when they try to open it up.
so I have to ask: was Marcus sad at the end for your guys' game? I did beat this, by the way.
No, yeah, he was. Yeah, he was in my first playthrough. I did it both ways.
I did it both ways, but the first time I couldn't bring myself to. I just imagined.
Yeah, Marcus was a very sad man.
I did.
I had a very dramatic story with Marcus.
Yeah. I did it both ways too, but I made.
He's been through enough.
No. That could not happen fast enough.
You got what you deserved.
I mean, that's the only reason I didn't do that was because he's lost his wife, he's lost Dom, he's lost everybody. So.
And it's the only reason why
heart.
I even hesitate. Like I actually had to think about it the first time. But it's assuming that I don't know if Gears 6 is going to have.
I can't wait to see what these guys do with UE5.
I know.
Oh, I know.
I know.
To answer your question, Mike, I think they did hint that there is a canon. I could be wrong about that. I thought they did hint that there is a canon decision that they're going with. But yeah, like the Coalition is one of those developers when people say that Xbox doesn't have great technical, aside from Turn 10 and Playground, this is one of the best developers in the industry.
Bar none. I mean, bar none.
Efficiency, everything, yeah.
Yeah. I mean,
they push Unreal 4 beyond the pale.
Well,
they just need to be able to spread the rings a little bit more, I think, and that's the thing that's missing. Why they don't get the recognition.
Not only does it look as good as anything out there, it ran at 60 frames on the One X.
In the entire history of E3, in the entire history of our industry, gaming is now at its most vibrant.
I just hope next year we can all go to E3 and
giving you the freedom
Same here.
Well, wait, hold on. Let's not put that pressure on John yet.
I just meant in terms of the world being back to.
I know. Well, I'm not. I want to go to E3. You hear that, John? No.
I might try to go regardless.
Yeah.
I've never been, but
I would absolutely love to go.
Road trip.
Put it on the check it out the
company card.
From breadth and art style, genre, and culture.
And the crazy thing is, as good as Sunday might be, and I'm expecting to be good, I get the feeling that next year's E3 is going to be fucking amazing.
Oh yeah, yeah. I totally agree. Especially, you think about just the fact that COVID will have less of an impact on those games. You know.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Well, and UE5 will be show your demo.
Is Epic paying you on the side?
No, I saw some stuff. I saw some stuff in it. I was like,
I'm not expecting to see much in the way of UE5 until 2 years. Honestly, I mean,
you can turn some stuff in there quick.
No, you could. I mean, I'm just thinking about how long it took for UE4. Granted, the jump between UE3 to UE4 was different than UE4 to UE5.
Yeah, off topic. All right, never mind. Sorry.
Hey, I can talk tech. Let's do it.
I think it's going to be a lot. It's going to be all the engines are going to advance. It's just that's the one that I've seen actually do something.
XCloud.
So this right here, they just talked about AI. They're talking about streaming. This is everything that they just talked about today, and I don't know. It's cool to see. This is the start of execution mode, and we're now going to see, this weekend, hopefully, kind of a midway point, I guess.
It's the start of the vision, right? Like that's what this was. The first E3 with the new vision.
They reiterated this vision today.
2017 was not a good E3. It was the One X launch year, but it was not. When they came out of that E3, everybody was saying, "What's your identity? Why are you even in gaming? Do you even want to be in gaming? Are you getting out? Is this like? Are you even going to launch this console?" Like these are the things people were asking right after that show because it just seemed like they were so like no direction, right? And then you started right here was kind of the beginning of a new beginning.
Mm-hmm.
And next year, and all of
it was a perfect time to recommit to gaming too, because you're not going to want to do this only when the next generation consoles are about to launch.
Yep.
Like you want to build up that image, that trust years in advance.
Yeah, even though 2017 was a bad E3, I think the launch and the success of the promise of One X.
Yeah.
That showed that like that's the whole reason I didn't have any doubts of Cyberpunk. That's the whole reason I had no doubts about Series X, because they already proved that they have the partnerships and they have the engineers to outmaneuver the competition. And obviously we saw that they did it again with the Series X. So they got the hardware. This was proving that they had the vision and the software planning.
Right.
Both with Game Pass, with XCloud, with the new acquisitions, and obviously,
all of those are Witcher 3 codes.
Yeah. Yeah. Oh man, another game that.
This one doesn't age well.
No.
I'd say most things we saw aged pretty well. This is the exception.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'd say this and Jump Force are the only two that, at least the ones that came out.
Jump Force has nothing on this, which.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Even 76 had its resurgence, right? So like this is the only black eye that's still.
Didn't they just announce today that they were hacked?
They were hacked a while ago. They announced what they announced what was actually found today.
Oh.
So.
Below the poverty line than anywhere else.
And it's disappointing because.
Was it impact user or end user impacted? Like.
No, it was like they had the bug, the internal bug highlights and things like that. It was all source code and internal development materials.
Do you guys remember this year, like after the show, this was like the thing people were playing behind the closed doors?
Yeah.
Yep.
That everybody was talking about. This was the...
Yep.
Well, they released the
show
demo a few months later.
Yeah.
It's a city of
Yeah.
It might have been around Gamescom.
and I'm a big.
And it's I love cyberpunk as a genre. I mean, I'm a Deus Ex fanatic. So the fact that this didn't live up anywhere near to the promises of what this was alone, really broke my heart. But CD Projekt Red has a lot of other issues outside of
Some management. I mean,
management, some very questionable PR moves.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, the fact that during their apology they basically blamed Q&A.
Yeah.
And I'm like, you know what? This is not sincere. This is not the way you do this.
And the kind of history of some transphobic remarks and things like that. It's that lead up to the release was already a little bit tainted, and then
it's such a shame too because Witcher 2, Witcher 3, love those games. Absolutely.
Yeah,
love
Witcher
those
3
games.
was one of my favorite games of last gen.
Yeah.
That was our number 2 on our Game of the Generation from
Yeah.
XboxEra.
2013
that
didn't have a
one
montage
didn't
at the end,
age
did
that
it?
well. Crackdown.
I'm still standing for Crackdown 4, man. I don't care.
It's over. The dream's
I want
over.
Crackdown 4. Give it
Have
give
you
it a proper
played
budget.
Abe? Because it is a
I did. No,
beautiful game.
I played it for about 10 hours, 10, 15 hours. It was,
I thought
it was fun.
I thought he was going to say 10 minutes.
10 minutes.
Yeah.
I mean, I got to a point where I was, doing some fun stuff, and then I was just doing it too often. And I was like, okay,
Yeah.
good.
Gotcha.
Same things, I felt like it was going to just.
There's other things you can do in that game, right? Whatever you were doing, there's other things.
Well, there's like
I'm just messing.
4 or 5 things you just keep doing.
It's weird because I remember Crackdown 2 getting flack. I don't remember it getting as much flack as Crackdown 3, even though Crackdown 2 was just
The worst game.
Yeah, it was like a recycled, worse playing,
Yeah.
in some ways worse looking version of Crackdown 1.
Yeah. I think it was the first time they switched back to just Xbox branding, if I recall. Because
All right, guys.
Do you mean
It's
the
time
jump
to
in?
It's time to give ratings, right? So we
Yep.
got to rate this show.
I mean, that was. I still think this is their best show since 2013. Like this, I mean, this show for me was so good. I was disappointed with 2019.
Yeah.
2019, I don't think lived up to this one.
Yeah.
2019 wasn't a great show. I probably gave 2019 about a 7.
7, yeah.
Yeah. It wasn't like embarrassing or anything. It just was like
And,
it wasn't
and
very.
Right, and for the audience, 7 is still good because we.
No,
use a
yeah,
10-point
it was a
scale.
good show.
Just
But
so
they set the
Yeah,
bar
Doom
so
and
high
gloom.
for this one with the pacing, the reveals, because every first party title here showed well, demoed well, whether it was Halo, Gears of War, Ori. I mean, Forza Horizon 4. Yeah,
You got to make sure you get the song right.
every single one either demoed well, trailered well. They were all. I don't think any of them were pre-rendered. At least first party wise, like there was a lot of the typical complaints that you hear towards game reveals. They avoided them. Like they did a great job. I don't know, and the fact that they had the confidence to lead with Halo right from the beginning. No intro, no fill on stage. Like right from the get-go, they had this really awesome Halo Infinite trailer.
Yeah.
And the pacing was great. I mean, you had some
Pacing
walls.
pacing was probably the best one out of everything we saw.
Yeah.
Yeah.
They kept going. There really wasn't any lull. I mean, the only talking parts were the studios, which obviously that wasn't bad, and then the Game Pass stuff, which again, to me that didn't really drag down the show because that was really important to the brand at that time, right? And at the time, getting a bunch of stuff dumped in there from third parties, even though they were smaller, was still a big deal.
Yeah.
I mean, for the enthusiast, it was something worthwhile.
Like,
so
that was a lull, but I wouldn't say in a bad way. Like
right.
The pacing did go down, but it was all good news. And like you said, it was a really
and
important aspect.
And the bar was higher anyway.
Yeah.
A lot of good games, a lot of games that actually came out and met expectations. We know a lot of times that doesn't happen. A lot of times, we have these shows that are like, great E3s or whatever, and then a lot of the games that were just really nice announcements, but they don't turn out to come close to the expectations. I think a lot of the stuff they showed there is his hit. There's a couple exceptions. The one at the end was the biggest. The Cyberpunk.
Yeah.
And that's probably where I would knock the show down the most. You ended on a third party again, and it was because I guess they could have ended on Gears, right? But it was the Gears Halo Forza show with you had Ori thrown in there, but other than that, it was it was kind of the same song. So I think it wasn't super exciting in that regard. So it was high quality, well paced, good vision, but there wasn't like any new IPs, which they went years without that, and that's going to be an interesting thing I think this year, because we already know of a few right off the bat, right? So to me, immediately there's something there that they haven't done in a few years, and that was probably the biggest weakness. But and like you said at the beginning, Mike, that was its criticism. But in terms of how everything else went, I'd say this show actually showed better than I thought it was going to, because I do remember it being very third party heavy, and looking back and I wasn't expecting it to. I didn't remember there was so many high quality games like Sekiro in there. I forgot Ori was shown in there. Devil May Cry. There was some good stuff in there, and stuff that wouldn't normally be on Xbox's stage. So that was relevant too. So if I was using a full scale, not rounding it, maybe I'd go like 8.6, 8.7, something like that. Not a 9. I think you need to have more first party stuff to be in that range, right? So I think it's probably as good of a show as you could have without having a lot of your own first party stuff.
I mean, I still think I'm going to be bullish, and I still think they did a pretty good job in the first party, because they had 5 games. They had Battletoads, which we didn't.
They had more than that.
That was all right. That was fine.
I mean, they didn't show any gameplay or anything, but at least they had fun with it, with like the nondescript features and stuff like that. Like the humor was there, but they had Battletoads, they had Ori.
That wasn't a good trailer, though. I don't think anybody had any clue what type of game that was going to be based on.
No, but I mean,
but sometimes
it was enough to drive excitement. I think you were bringing back an older IP. It was much requested.
Okay.
I mean, showing some gameplay would have gone a long way, and unfortunately for them, when they showed gameplay, I think that actually hurt the image until people got their hands on it. But I'm just looking at it. I don't know, like not objectively, but just looking at it without any
big picture.
Yeah, thank you. Like big picture, without any kind of 2020 hindsight, because now we know how all these games turned out. Except Halo. I think Halo is the only game that has not launched that they had. But there's Ori, Forza,
Gears showed really well, and that was another thing.
Gears Tactics, which we completely missed. But I mean,
that's right. They skipped that. That's the part they cut.
Yeah,
that was weird.
We're gonna ignore what is it, the POG or what are Gears?
Right. Gears
Pop. Yeah, we're gonna ignore that. That didn't exist.
I totally forgot Gears Tactics was in it. So they cut out a couple minutes right there in that. And Gears Tactics was a really good game, by the way. I beat it last year, and I think that was probably my most. I would say maybe the most underrated game of the year. It was really high quality all the way through. A little bit repetitive in parts.
So
but yeah, that was a good game. You made a good point. I forgot that game was even there.
So like for an Xbox press conference with as little studios as they had, having 6 or 7 first party titles is really, really good. And I mean, it's only you. I guess it's easy to say.
I was gonna say, think about Cyberpunk, right? Witcher 3 was one of the biggest IPs, the biggest RPGs to come out that generation without knowing how things would go.
Yeah.
Having it end on Cyberpunk was at the time huge.
It was a smart move.
I mean,
Yeah.
I mean, that's all people were talking about across most of the industry for weeks. So, I'm sorry, Mike. I cut in, but
no. The only thing I was going to finish off on was it's only. I mean, yes, they leaned on third parties, but that's only because they had so many games. They had no choice. Like, no matter who you are in this industry,
there are 50 games.
Yeah, when you're showing 50 games, you have no choice but to lean on third parties. If they condensed it down to whatever you typically would see in a Xbox, PlayStation, Nintendo showpiece or presentation, where it would be 10 games or roughly, then when you consider
and a lot of those would be games 3-4 years out.
Yeah, when you let's say 10 to 15, being generous, still a third to half of those games would be first party. Like, that's really good. It's only because they just gave us this rush of titles that, so no matter what, it was lose, but it was all like pure hype, really. Like, this
I think
all
last year's show had like 23, right? 22 or 23, something like that.
Yeah, it was like
a low
23
20s.
games.
Yeah. So, this had twice as many as that.
Yeah. I would give it an 8.5. I agree with you that it was missing that, like if Cyberpunk was an exclusive, something like that. If there was like a first party title or published agreement or something, then I think that would warrant kicking it up to a 9. But yeah, I think 8.5 is fair.
Yeah, and it's probably not fair, Mike, but I think it is kind of fair that, it had been a few years people have been talking about new IP, and it just never, people just wanted something that's like fresh and exciting, right? And I think that to have, again, a 9, that kind of show that really hits that A tier, you need to have something that's fresh and exciting, that's like leveraging your hardware, you're putting the full backing into it, something like that.
Ironically, the 2013 E3, I think it was we give that a 9 or something? Because that was...
You did. I think I gave it an 8.
That was... you gave it an 8. I gave it a 9. Because that was front-loaded with exclusives. They did showcase the hardware really well. A lot of it looked great to be, So what about you, Daniel?
Well, I'm going to be the odd man out and give it a 9, and I'll tell you why. So, I'm one of the
he likes the attention.
No. Here's the thing. I love IP just as much as I love returning IP. And the thing that I always find funny is that when people talk about new IP, like the 2013 show is a fantastic microcosm of this argument. Tons of great new games, Crimson Dragon, Sunset Overdrive. You go through the list. How many of those games did people actually buy, despite the fact that they kept saying, we want new IP? So gamers are a hypocritical bunch, and Sunset Overdrive is, I think, objectively a great game by every metric across the board, right? So keep that in mind. Obviously, lower install base of Xbox One, notwithstanding. The reason I think that this one stood out so much to me, even if it didn't have, it didn't have the Avowed, it didn't have, the Return of Fable. I keep going back to this. This is like the fulfillment of Phil's promise that Xbox is back. That Microsoft is taking gaming seriously. That Microsoft is taking Xbox as a pillar seriously. I mean, again, I've been to Ignite, I've been to Build now 2 years in a row via virtual conference because of COVID, and at every single one of those, I mean, and these are enterprise conferences. These are not gaming focused whatsoever, and yet every single one begins with Satya talking about Xbox and Flight Sim and all this kind of stuff. So it really shows you how much they have pivoted, and this was the E3 where it really started to show. Like, not only just everything you guys talked about, some of the weaknesses, some of the massive strengths, but for me, like the fact that I don't even know how much obviously they spent to purchase those 5 studios, but then remember 2 months later or 3 months later we got Obsidian and InXile. So this was the ignition to full speed Xbox mode, where they showed that they weren't just they were going to walk the walk and not just talk the talk. So that was one of the main things. And again, I'm trying to, like what Mike was saying, I'm trying to look retrospectively and separate myself from the current knowledge that I have. For me, ending with Cyberpunk, I remember watching that with my wife, because that's our yearly thing, is we watch it together, and we were both like, holy shit, like Cyberpunk is actually real. And because it was announced back in 2012, if I remember right.
Yeah.
And it was such a surprise, like out of the blue. And I don't know, I felt like this was like you said, the pacing was great. I felt like the decisions for the third-party titles that they showcased, they all told a story. They all tried to solve an objective or finish an objective, right? We had been hearing for months before this that Phil was going to Japan, for trip after trip to start these relationships, and we saw that. We saw Tales of Vesperia. We saw the Jump Force. This was the thing that eventually got us to Yakuza and the Sega relationship that was rekindled. This is the thing that got us to Game Pass where it is today. This is the thing that got us to the studios where they are today. So I have a particular fondness for this one, obviously. So
yeah,
that's why.
The Cyberpunk was, I even knowing what we know now, I agree with you that was a really strong ending, because one, they played it off really well with the conference being
whole
hacked.
hacking.
Yeah, the whole conference being hacked. And the little Easter eggs, like I pointed out, the codes for Witcher 3, like that was because that's a lot of copies that they gave away there. And then just how well the trailer was, I think it was a smart move ending on Cyberpunk, but I don't know. The only thing that I would disagree slightly with, I don't know if I would say that gamers are hypocrites because of the 2013, because I'm
not saying they are because of that, but that's an example of why the call for new IP isn't always it can be sometimes a little bit more disingenuous than people like to think it is.
No, I get what you're saying. I think things would have played out differently if there wasn't the shadow of the DRM fiasco and the taint, it wasn't until, I would say, until the 1S or maybe even the 1X where they were finally they finally started to shed that image problem that they've been battling most of last gen, because you had that box of VCR, and I don't know, even when I bought the Xbox One, I got the VCR model.
Yeah, me too.
I remember I got it 2 months before they revealed the 1S model. I was like, what the hell? But even when I bought it, and this was way past, we knew they weren't going to reinstate the DRM. Connect wasn't mandated. But even when I bought it, I was instantly reminded of all those controversies, and I was instantly reminded of Don Matrick and that whole just.
You know what's funny about that, though, is I think about that, and if Nick were here, he would say this. He would say, just a reminder, none of those, the DRM thing, it never even launched with it. It never even happened.
No.
But what's worse is that, sorry, Nick, that was a horrible Australian this time. What's funny is that, you had outlets who were still making digs at that until 2017 and 2018, when again it never happened.
I don't know if they did it that long.
Oh, I did. I've got receipts. I'll send you some. Afterwards.
Credible outlets though. I don't know.
One of the biggest ones in Europe. I will just say that.
That's Europe. I mean,
as if they don't count.
No, I'm saying that half in jest, but no, for me personally, it wasn't the fact of launching or not launching. It was the intent. And that right there, and OG Xbox One was my premier system. 360 was my main platform. Whatever's the typically the most powerful, gives me the best gaming experience, is typically my main system that generation. And I was livid at the whole Xbox One premiere, their intent, the amount of hubris surrounding, you know, if you don't have an internet, there's the 360. Like, all of that just completely lost me as a consumer all the way up until almost 4 years into the generation, just because I think it was Sunset Overdrive that I bought the game for, or System 4. Actually, no, it was Quantum Break. But so yeah, I don't know. Like, they just shit the bed, and were I don't know.
I'm going to pull you guys back from the squirrel chase.
Yeah, sorry. It's just to me, it's just such a huge contrast to how that generation started and what we see this E3.
And
you know?
2013 was simply about the new IP, and as an example, but it also provides a mirror. 2018 is Phil Spencer's Xbox coming to fruition, right?
Yeah.
And I think that's one of the reasons I'm so high on this one. I definitely agree. 2019 wasn't nearly as strong as this one, even though I did enjoy Tim Schafer coming out and talking about making Excel.
I'm a Tim Schafer fan.
It was good. It just wasn't as good.
I think you did a good job, Daniel, selling your 9. So your review writing backs up your review score. I do agree that, and it's just it just comes down to your priorities and how you prioritize what these shows are about. This is probably this is probably the most important one they've had up until now, because they were a brand that was, losing faith of, even the enthusiasts at that point in time. I would say, for myself, as soon as Terry Myerson went bye and they promoted him to head of the table, I was all in, and I said that I was leaning out before that move, so I was already kind of foreseeing this something big happening at that point in time. So, but I think for the general public, they still couldn't see it. And I think until he got up there, announced 5 studios, they did, they did, even though they didn't really, excite with something fresh, they did show their IPs very well. All the ones they did show, with the exception of Battletoads, I think showed pretty well here. I still not going to give you that one. But so there's a lot. There's a lot of positive. I will say though, the pomp and circumstance, the showmanship, all that stuff, that is an important part of gaming. I know a lot of times we say, we talk about the substance and what's the game going to be when it releases. But part of the fun of being a gamer is this whole build-up, right? We like journeys. That is part of the memories. Like when we go back and we look at Halo 2, part of the memories is, you all sitting around watching that demo with your friends and talking about it for weeks after.
I mean, E3 is the Xbox gamer's Christmas for a reason. Not to interrupt real quick, but that's just,
It's like, it's the build-up, just like in anything, right? You need to court. You need to court the girl, before you become serious, right? Like it's part of the process, I guess is what I'm saying.
How we can tell you're old, Abe?
Yeah, sorry.
Because you used the word court.
I'm trying not to be inappropriate right now. I don't know who's watching right now. So, but anyway, sorry, they're going on.
Back in my day, we wrote letters and everything.
I'm trying not to be inappropriate, you guys. So I'm being really old about that analogy.
And remember too, we didn't have any wrestlers hiding below the stage to play a game that we didn't even get to see. So,
and that's the thing. That's why I completely get the 9. Like, I almost said 9 originally. Honestly,
you were just afraid.
Well, no, it was just missing that one first-party punch. Like, and I'm not saying it's necessary or anything, but
I think to get a 9, for me, it's necessary. And I would even say like a Fable with gameplay that's fresh, reboot. Just like we saw God of War. Like God of War, when that popped for PlayStation fans, that made that show, great, right? And I think, if Perfect Dark or Fable does the same thing, it doesn't have to be a new IP. I think it has to be fresh though, and I think Halo, that demo was kind of fresh, but also it wasn't really a game. So I think that did detract a little bit. So I'm saving them. I've been with Xbox is my primary platform since I picked it up in 2001 when it was 2 to 3 weeks old, and it's been my primary platform. I don't think they've ever had a 9 E3, but I'm leaving them that space. I do think they have enough they have enough weapons now that they should be able to get that here in the next year to 2 years, something like that.
I guess that answers my question.
Yeah,
because I was gonna quickly ask you guys, what do you think? Do you think they're gonna have a 9 E3 this year? And from what you just said, I'm guessing you're not expecting quite that, because I'm not.
Not quite. I think they're gonna have a good E3 this year. I think you have to have. The one thing this did do really well is they showed some games, the in-game gameplay, or they gave you a really good idea. We know like the Techland demo couldn't have been a real game because it's been 3 years and it's still not out. But it did give you a really good idea, it sold the vision on what that is, right? Yeah. And that's kind of what I think gamers are looking for. It doesn't necessarily have to be something that's about to come out, but really give me a picture of what it is I'm going to be doing, why I should be excited about it. So that's the thing that they still have to be able to hit. I think right now, just where they are in development, it's going to be very difficult to achieve that. And just being realistic.
Yeah.
I think next year is probably the year they'll be able to maybe hit it on all cylinders. Mm-hmm. I still expect a really good show in terms of announcements, in terms of, things that will be able to look back on and be like, oh, this is the first time that big thing happened. Right. So,
I expect some good announcements, a good show. I don't know if it's going to move the needle, though. Like, I think next year's show will move the needle just because we're going to see a lot more. Like, I think next year's show, we're going to see a lot more of what we saw last year, if that makes sense. And I think that is going to just drive a lot more interest and hype just because it's more real, if that makes sense.
Yeah, no, absolutely. Yeah, when you get to see Avowed and Fable for the Perfect Dark in game, that's going to have a completely different impact than just seeing a CG trailer that shows you nothing to do with what a game loop might be, or Everwild, right? I still don't know what the game is. It looks pretty, but yeah, like that kind of stuff. So yeah, I think right now I am pretty bullish about the show coming up. I do expect to be very excited about it, but I do think that it's just being realistic. You have to be able to really demo a game in a way that maybe they're not ready to right now. But maybe they'll surprise us. We'll see. So I think that's the area that I'm probably the least bullish on, is how far along games are to be able to be demoed, especially in this COVID environment.
Yeah, that's what I was going to say. Is like, I don't think it'll be a 9, and I think it'll be great, but I don't think any show can really be a 9 when, COVID is still greatly COVID has impacted games this year and next year more than they did last year, because most of those games that released last year or were releasing early this year were on the tail end of development, and so the games that as we've seen this year, how many more delays have we gotten this year than we got last year already? And it's only June. I don't think you can really hit, like you guys were saying, like you need to have a fair balance of gameplay, CG, and also I think part of the seeing the crowd, seeing the stage, seeing the whole presentation and the production, and I how many other journalists do we talk to, or Xbox, PlayStation engineers that they were like, they all say we miss the stage, we miss being there, and that's part of the production. And I think we're going to get some cool announcements. We're going to get some cool follow-ups for like Psychonauts and things like that, and some cool maybe things. But also the other thing that's weird is because of the potential announcements maybe happening now or later, but the way that the whole Summer Game Fest and E3 have kind of blended into this like long term, it's going to be better this year where it's not spread over 3 months. But it's still kind of weird because you don't have that concise hit 90 minutes, 120 minutes, whatever it is, and you're able to get everything in at once on this big stage. So I don't know if you'll be able to do something like 2018 again just yet.
Yeah.
But I don't know, and I think Microsoft is aware of that because I mean, how many times have we seen? Hell, they just dropped that thing today, and it's like they have an awareness now where they're kind of spreading out their news to continuously stay in the news, I guess. But
yeah, that's a different thing. It's a different model too. And you bring up a really good point there, Daniel, because they've brought in a lot of people from Netflix, and I mentioned this in the article. People should go read my article, Netflix the Games. Satya Nadella was mentored by the guy that co-founded it, and so for that kind of business model, the subscription model, it really is about having that constant engagement, and it is about having constant news. You're not going to throw out all your bullets one time during the year. You don't need to beat Sony at E3. You just need to keep staying in people's, you have to keep staying in the conversation all year round. And so, so you bring up some really good points. Now, at the end of the day, depending on what kind of announcements there are, there always could be like enough stuff in the pipeline you could do both. But we'll see that might be over time.
I think that, and I think you touched on this, what you just said, Abe. It's not a make or break moment. No matter what, it's not a make or break moment.
Yeah, they're doing fantastically. They're doing better now than they were this time last gen.
Yeah.
And we talk about moving the needle. It's like the needle's already been moved. I think if you look at the success of a lot of their last 2 years worth of releases, some outlets or some corners of the internet may not have caught up yet, but I think the needle's already been moved, and we're seeing it move in the right direction. And the whole console war mentality, it's so old hat at this point. Like, in reality, Microsoft doesn't really compete with Sony in the same way that they used to, and the same thing with Sony. I mean, they're going different routes, right? And we'll see how it plays out.
Yeah. No, all good thoughts. All good thoughts. Well,
guys, go court your girls. Sorry, I don't know why.
What the heck? How are there multiple girls
some
now?
Old letters in the basement for you.
All right.
On that note,
as this thing just jumped the shark.
Well, Daniel, thank you. Abe,
of course, happy to be here.
Yeah, I guess thank you.
I'm happy to derail like usual.
So definitely hit subscribe, hit the like button. Thank you for watching, and I think the next time we're all it's going to be for the You Had Me at Hello podcast after the press conference.
We're going to be at the something like that.
Did I say hello or did I say Halo?
It sounds whatever. It's all good.
That's fine. I think
it's the Halo podcast. Just tune in.
So, by the time you watch this, it'll be in a day.
Yeah.
Maybe it'll be the same day. I don't know. Depends on when you're going to watch this.
All right. I'm signing off. Adios, guys.
Signing off.